But what I'm going to talk about today are kind of the challenges of being a modern home inspector. There we go. And really what we're going to go over is the increased liabilities and pressures that are involved in being a home inspector in today's, demanding economy, if the evolving client demands, and then also dealing with visibility challenges, because there's a lot of people out there. There's a lot of different ways to be visible. I'm going to talk to you guys about one of my favorite ways to be visible, which of course is social media. Um, We'll get into ethical practices. I'm going to talk a little bit about a framework that I use to keep my ethics safe and kind of keep adherent to standards. We're going to talk a little bit about client and agent expectations and how to handle those sort of things if people are coming at you with, difficult requests or questions. We'll cover a little bit on what to do there. And then lastly, the role of personal branding is something we're going to go into, which is that social media stuff that I was talking about. Real quick, I just want to double check that the mic is coming through good. Can somebody let me know that my audio is at least coming through good enough? Yep,
It's
looks like it's
great. Coming
perfect.
through loud and
Awesome.
clear.
Wonderful. Okay, so we'll dig into ethics first. It's an acronym that I like to use when I train my guys on doing inspections is CARD, CARD. And anytime you get into a situation that, pushes the ethics a little bit or makes you wonder, what I should be doing in this sort of situation, you should have like a framework or something like that in place so that when these situations occur, you're ready for them. CARD is the framework that I use. You got to remember to play your cards right in any sort of ethics situation or where something is getting a little bit questionable about what people are asking you. And my structured approach is you clarify without compromising, acknowledge without agreeing, then reference your standards and make sure you document absolutely everything. This ensures that you're communicating really clearly and that you're performing with integrity and staying professional. So, how do you acknowledge without agreeing? This can be a little bit difficult for some people, especially if if you're used to being a professional in your industry. So I got a couple of tips and tricks on how to do it here. One of the big ones that I really want to focus on though is not using the word but. You can see it here in the image. People find that extremely condescending. If you tell somebody, I hear what you're saying, but it doesn't matter, that's exactly what they're going to hear after the word but, is that whatever you just told them doesn't matter. Whatever acknowledgement you gave them doesn't matter. So really try to avoid the word but in any sort of situation like that. I hear what you're saying and then pivot. But at the same time, I required a report to be observed. Or um, that said, my job is to stick to and accurately document what we're seeing here. So a great example is if you have somebody saying, "Hey, I don't like," and maybe a realtor's coming to you and saying, "Hey, I don't like how heavily worded it is about this water heater issue that you're looking at here." I hear what you're saying is one of the first things that you need to do. I acknowledge. And then what you do from there is also important. So before we get into reference standards, let's clarify without compromising. So I understand, I acknowledge that this is your problem, but let's clarify. Describe the facts. Stick to what you know. Use calm and neutral language. I know that you're worried about the fact that I'm talking about the fact that a water heater doesn't have a TPR valve, and this is kind of seems alarming to your buyers. Let's describe the facts to them. Without a TPR valve, it could discharge, water could come out. It is a potential scald situation, and I am required to document it that way, which is when we come back to uh, documenting things and play your cards right. Acknowledge, reference the standards, your SOPs, your state records, and keep your objectives keep your objectives out of debates. So when you reference I need to get into this first. Sorry. I don't know why it backed up. There we go. So documentation. Make sure that you document everything that you're saying to them. Text messages need to be saved, emails need to be saved. If you're having phone call conversations, start up a messaging app or a note-taking app and keep track of what's being said. One of the other things that you can do as well is if you're using Code Pro, and I'm going to dig into a little bit on what Code Pro is here in just a minute, but if you're using Code Pro, it actually keeps track of the conversations you're having with it. So a lot of technology does that these days. Um, and so when you're clarifying to them, that's one of the things that you need to clarify to them. This is something that I am required to document on. And then also you keep up on your own documentation to CYA, cover your own butt or cover your own. I don't know if I'm allowed to swear on this one. Last thing that we'll get into is referencing your standards, CARD. Um,
Is
so when you're
ass a swear
referencing,
word?
what's that? Yeah, I know. Yeah,
That's a
you're
swear
right.
word?
Is ass a swear word? I'm in Utah. So, yes, sir, it is a swear word.
All right.
Uh,
All right, don't say it. Don't say it.
all right.
We're
So,
professionals here.
yes, of the highest caliber, especially if you're a home inspector. So, reference standards. Why you want to reference your standards? It keeps you objective and out of debates, right? It anchors your observations to something that's real, and it builds credibility with clients. What I mean by referencing standards, if somebody's asking, why do you even care that those door hinges are loose? What, that's getting really nitpicky. Actually, it's in the SOPs. Especially if it's a state SOP or if you're operating under ASHI, they've got their SOPs. There's depending on where you are, you might also have your own company SOPs. Um, Referencing to those SOPs in conversations is what builds your credibility in front of a client. And um, it's the foundation that you base all of your arguments off of. So there's a reason why when you go through a lot of these training programs online or anything like that, one of the first things that they put in front of your face is the SOPs. And it's because you need to know what your standard operating procedures are, because those are your standards, and then you can reference back to those if you start having difficulties later. It's how you get authority on those issues. All right. We'll move on here. So liability management. Um, One of the common liability scenarios that we had just recently, was it who was it Mark that I was talking to? Which one of you guys was I talking to just recently when we had the conversation about the realtor that was having problems with you? Somebody mentioned that,
That was me.
yeah, so kind of explain the story here, and we'll talk about some liability scenarios based off of that for just a second.
Well, I mean, it was pretty straightforward. I got the that common comment from a real estate agent. He called and he said to me, he said, this is the biggest transaction I've ever had in my career. Now, I've known this guy since the beginning of his career. I think I did his very first inspection 10, 12, 15 years ago. And he says, this is the biggest transaction I've ever had. Don't you dare kill my deal. So in one out of one side of his mouth, he said, I trust you. And on the other side of his mouth, he says, but don't kill my deal. So I laughed and scheduled the inspection. So it was 17,000 square feet, $4.5 million. And, the EIFS was done wrong. The AMSV was done wrong. So before I even got inside the house, he's got $250,000 of remediation. So my
Yeah.
report says, further evaluation by, building envelope specialist, and I referred him to somebody. And what he does, it was 4-year-old house. Instead of taking my advice, he called in the builder who had done the work wrong in the first place and asked him if he'd done it right and what he was going to do to fix it. Well, he decided he agreed to do a couple $1,000s worth of work. So is that the story you're asking about?
Yeah, exactly. So, and then after this, uh, you expressed that you were a little concerned, just by the realtor's actions and the way he was talking to you, that your buyer may not have seen the report and it may not have ever had a chance because you didn't actually get to do a walkthrough on this house with your buyer. Is that correct? It was just the realtor that
He
was
was
there?
present at the inspection. The part I
Oh,
think what you're referring to is when I told you that he had we had scheduled. Usually, I'll do a phone consult after they've read the report.
yeah.
Because the agents always ask me to do that. Say, after we read the report, we want to talk to you on the phone about it. Well,
Mhm.
he canceled that on this one. It's the only time he's ever canceled that. So yeah, I think
Yeah.
he had seen the report, but he cut me out.
Yeah. Okay.
The
So,
decision,
and
the
at that
interpretation.
point, yeah, at that point in time, right? You need to make sure one of the first things that I would have done, just to, not to break it down, not to make you sound bad or anything like that, but to just kind of use this as a case study here. And I'm not sure what you did in that particular situation, but one of the first things I would have done is I've actually got a note-taking software that I use. It's AI backed. And I'll keep track of when conversations like that happen. I'll get off the phone and go, hey, I'll just open up my software and type in a quick message to myself or a note. On today's date and time, I had a conversation with so and so realtor, and it was pointing in this direction. It didn't look like the realtor was worried about the client. It was more worried about the cost of what the house's value was going to be and how their bottom line or whatever it was going to be. And then anytime anything like that happens, I'll go back and keep tracking it. I've got mountains of this stuff that's probably going to be useless down the road, but the whole effort of keeping track of most of that stuff, or the whole effort of um, even doing any of that, is just to try and reduce my liability. And that's because when I started training and I started learning how to do home inspections, I was being a handyman in Hawaii. I flew helicopters for a few years as a commercial helicopter pilot. And while I was in Hawaii working as a handyman, I ran across another guy that was doing home inspections there. Him and I started talking, and I realized that that was probably something I wanted to get into. And I apprenticed underneath him, became a home inspector, and then moved to Utah and started my own business. But while I was apprenticing underneath him, um, my eyes were just so widely opened um, to the amount of liability that us as inspectors are constantly exposed to. And so I try to constantly keep records. I try to constantly automate things, and there's a lot of stuff that I'm always doing to try and reduce the liability. And so beyond, the ethics and trying to manage a situation when somebody's getting upset like that, you can go back to, that story we could use. Card, one more slide. Clarify, hey, I just want to be clear that the client is 100% clear on what needs to be done on this house, and that I think that further evaluation needs to be done before repair. I understand that you've brought the builder in. This is me acknowledging without agreeing. I understand that you've brought the builder in, and the builder has taken a look at the house and has given some information to the buyer. However, my standards state that I need to ensure that the buyer has seen the report and fully understands the report. This is not only a company standard, but a state standard. And so I'm going to personally call the client. That way I have a record of that phone call. And you can say I just walked down the card cycle there and 100% covered myself every step of the way to make sure that that situation at the other end of it, I'm as safe as possible. And so all of this is kind of built from the top down to reduce liability. But some of the other stuff that you can do to reduce liability is inconsistent wording in inspection reports. So just when I knew that I was going to be doing this presentation, I went and did some research. To be honest, I used a little bit of ChatGPT. I love using AI. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. Um, and so I found some of the most common liability scenarios according to the internet that are occurring right now. So inconsistent wording. This is a new one that I actually am currently going through my report and making sure that I'm extremely consistent on my wording. There was a lawsuit one because somebody was explaining it one way. It was the exact same discrepancy. It was a ventilation discrepancy in a crawl space. And he was explaining it one way as it could cause mold growth on one inspection. On another inspection, he was just saying it could collect moisture. And because he left out the fact that it could potentially cause mold growth, and it was the same sort of scenario, he lost that lawsuit. So it's something that I'm going to go through and start making sure that, across my report, that those sort of things don't occur. Um, and then if you're using AI in the future, make sure that it's wording things pretty consistently, because a lot of us are starting to use AI to build discrepancies. And it's not consistent every time, especially if you're using GPT. Offering prices or lifespans is another one. The roof is one that I've seen a lot of inspectors going, yeah, your roof's got 5 years left. Um, say I wouldn't trust it for more than 5 years, but I couldn't tell you exactly how long it is. I know that sounds chintzy, but sometimes you've got to cover yourself. Your scope confusion. This one's unique depending on your state and what you want to cover, because, for example, here in Utah, there is no state regulatory like licensing standard. And so my scope is technically whatever I define it. But you need to make sure that your scope is defined somewhere. I have my SOPs listed on the website. I copied them down. And I'm not just, they aren't my own, but I have them listed on my website. And then there's other services that I do beyond that, because I have a chemical technician background, and so I do some environmental analysis stuff, and I have my own scope that I send out as a separate email for that specific service, and it's so that we're very, very clear on what I am and am not doing on any service that I approach. Um, Skipping special referrals. So if it's questionable to recommend like, so I've seen some lawsuits on this one, but I don't know how much I agree on it. So like special referrals, what they're talking about here is um, when you refer a structural engineer, they're saying that if you refer just one structural engineer, that you're not giving a fair evaluation to the field or your client. That you should pick 3 or 4 structural engineers that you think are good and then recommend those 3 to be ethical and fair. And if you do anything beyond that, you're opening yourself up to potential lawsuit in some locations in the nation.
But Bo,
So that's what they're
I gotta
looking at.
stop you there for just a second because I would find that nearly impossible to do.
To do
Uh,
what?
to find 3 competent uh,
Right?
structural engineers
That's kind of
in
my
the
stumbling point
area.
too. I've got 2 for a lot of them, and for some of them, I just say, "I'm sorry, I don't got anybody for you. Just Google it." But there are some of them that it's just one guy, and it's because I can't find anybody that's better than him. And it's not because I'm getting a kickback, and it's not because I think that uh, like he's gonna send me referrals or anything like that. And as when I was digging into the lawsuits and trying to figure it out, that's kind of what was happening in these situations. Is they were drawing it back to, no, the inspector is getting some sort of gain by recommending only this guy, and this guy isn't actually the best in the area. He's just who the inspector likes. And that's not fair. You're not being ethical with your client and giving them the best person. You're giving them the person you like the best. And that's where the argument can be made. But it's hard because I'm there, right there. I like there's only one electrician I'll recommend. There's only one structural engineer I'll recommend. There's only one HVAC guy I'll recommend. There none the rest of them Google, because I feel like the rest of them are all kind of fair game. They're all you crapshoot. I don't know what you're gonna get. So this one was something I decided to include because it made the top 5, and I needed to. I wanted to bring it up. I thought it was good enough, but I'm with you. If a couple of you guys are listening to me talk about that one and going, I don't know, man, I agree. And then being inconsistent across clients. So this was if you call out a loose door hinge in one house, you should always call loose door hinges, and that means um, some inspectors are going to crappy houses that are just absolute dumps and going, look, there's bigger issues here than loose door hinges. I'm not going to call out loose door hinges. I've got other fish to fry, and there'd be a million discrepancies in here if I was getting that granular. If you're going to do that, Just make sure that you put in a limitation or something like that in the report stating that that was your intention. That's how you cover yourself in this scenario. Otherwise, you're opening yourself up to liability. Okay, proactive steps to avoid mistakes. Automate your emails. Use text message systems, be clear on your SOPs, and use tools like CodePro. And this is kind of where I'm going to do a little bit of a talking about CodePro. So, me and another inspector spent the last year and a half working on an AI app that understands building code. And it was because him and I would call each other pretty regularly with questions. And a lot of times it would be about code, and we hated this type of situation because one, you're not technically a code inspector, but two, we wanted to know the information. We want to be really smart inspectors. We want to be on top of our game. We want to know why the codes are there, but getting the answers was difficult. The ICC's website felt really, really clunky to us. And so we decided to develop an app called Code Pro, and it understands the building code. It knows the IRC, the NEC, the NPC, and we're working on energy. I think we're going to be, no, it's the state level or I mean, county level stuff that we're working on next. It knows everything down to the state level. So if you're in Utah and you have questions, you could go to ChatGPT and say, hey, um, what is the minimum height for a step outside of a house with an outswinging door? Um, is it actually allowed to be more than 7 inches? Because I've heard in some states it is. And it's going to look up the code through the ICC's website, and then it's going to give you the ICC version of whatever year your state adopted. So if the state of Utah is running the 2021 IRC, it's going to reference the 2021 IRC and give you that code. Except in the state of Utah, there are amendments directly related to that IRC. And that particular code has been adjusted at the state level and doesn't really apply here in Utah. ChatGPT doesn't know that. Code Pro does. And so you can ask it code related questions. You can say, hey, there's a water heater behind a suspended ceiling in the basement. What kind of regulations do I need to be worried about that? And it will spit out what regulations you need to are related to it, why they're related to it, and what the most common mistakes are around it to try and educate you about the code rather than just be like, here's the code. But it also references the code directly. It tells you which code number, and then it also gives you a link to look it all up. So it's tools like this, these sort of evolving or emerging tools, is kind of what I'm super supportive of. And I'm trying to jump onto these tools and really utilize them to reduce my liability and increase my productivity and make me smarter in the field every single day. So I have, I'm using Spectora's advanced automation systems for my emails and text messages. Guys, text messages are incredibly powerful in today's day and age. If you're not utilizing them, um, you're missing out. I really, really recommend that. The next thing that I would suggest is being familiar with your SOPs and making sure that they're available to the public somewhere from your reference source. You need to have a website if you're a modern business person. If you don't have a website, that's as bad as not having text messages in my book. Get one up and get it going. Get your SOPs on there. And then if you do anything special that's outside of the, standard SOPs for InterNACHI or ASHI or your state or whatever it is, you need to make sure that you send those directly to the clients so that they have a record and that you have a record of sending those to them. Um, Use tools like Code Pro or ChatGPT. I'm a supporter of even ChatGPT. I know it's a direct competitor with the app that I'm supporting, but I'm serious, guys. It's nowhere near as accurate. And then stick to your workflow. So one of the other things that really, really helped me start avoiding mistakes when I did my apprenticeship, the guy that I did my apprenticeship with had a really like regimented workflow for doing your inspections, and I drifted away from that when I first um, moved out to Utah and started doing them on my own as a businessman. I was like, nah, I'll remember everything. I got this. And the first three mistakes I made as a professional businessman on my own were simply because I didn't stick to the freaking workflow that some other person gave me because it's probably because he made that mistake. So really, you got to have some sort of workflow. Walk in, pick the wall to the right, stick to the wall to the right, open windows and receptacles or whatever your workflow is, but make one and then stick to it. It'll
Hey,
keep you from
Bo.
making mistakes. Yeah.
Hey, Bo, before we move away from Code Pro, I usually discourage our speakers from promoting their own products, but frankly, that's part of the reason you're here because you had
Yes, sir.
some of this stuff. We got a question from a guy out in Colorado. I think he's from the Denver area. He's saying that Colorado has 200 to 300 code entities. Does Code Pro know each one of those?
So right now, what we've done is we've gone through and basically, if it is an amendment adopted by any entity within the state, then it is under the umbrella of that state for the amendments list that that particular model understands because it's got to know the amendments to like a lawyer level and then be able to interpret them and give them back. And so the next step right now, so the app's out. And I can share to you guys how to download it and even get you a way to get a bunch of free questions so that you can play with it for free for a little while after this. But it's statewide to that. We're not that granular yet, but we're working on it because there's places like Colorado, Texas. Um, I think New York is another one. And Carl's better at this than I am. I don't know if Carl's on here. Said he might be on here. Carl, are you on here? Nope. Okay. So, um, yeah, so that's to get down to that granular is the next step. We wanted to get it out and have a working product because there are a lot of states that aren't like Colorado or Texas or California is its own complete misery nightmare too. But we got every single state to the statewide level, and that's how we did it. Do we got any other questions on it? Because I can't answer those.
Yeah, and I think that's it. Go ahead.
Okay, so moving on. So the importance of documents in disputes. I once had a lawyer tell me it was a lawyer that I made friends with after I came out here, and he's the one that writes a lot of my agreements and stuff like that. Now, in court, the person with the most documentation usually wins, whether or not they were right. And that's just because you can tell the story you want to tell if you have the documentation. And you need this, it's important to bring this up as we're talking about liability because something that I don't know if enough inspectors think about when they're thinking about liability is your opportunity to get documentation on that house is while you are there only. The homeowner has the rest of the time they own that house to get documentation on it. So if you want to have more documentation than the homeowner, you'd better be like dedicated to it. And that's why I'm doing stuff like this, where I'm like, no, every single conversation that feels weird or anything like that, I keep a little note on it and the date and all that stuff. It may seem like it's over the top, but I've got advice from somebody who seems to know that's telling me that's actually a great idea. Keep doing that. So that's what I've been doing. Um, and then utilizing Code Pro for accuracy, right? You can reach into Code Pro, get really, really accurate answers and stuff like that. It's a great app, guys. I really suggest it. I'll stop harping on it. Um, and then key takeaways. So, to effectively manage liability, inspectors should prioritize honest communication. That's one of the easiest way to look honest and authoritative is sharing your SOPs and making sure that you're big on that. Meticulous documentation. I think I've harped on that enough. And then use technology like CodePro, AI, automation, any sort of available technology that's out there, you need to be leaning on it and using it. And then adhere to ethical standards. Make sure that you have some sort of system in place so that when the crap hits the fan and you're trying to figure out what to say, you're going, that's right. At this point, I need to acknowledge them. Okay. And then after that, um, that's right. The next step is C. I don't know why I just blanked it. Anyways, follow my steps. We're gonna move on to to the social media stuff, and my brain's already on the train for that one, so I'm blinking the CARD acronym. Um, so just a second here. Uh, understand why. I'm such a big guy on social media, and then we'll spend about 15 to 20 minutes on it, and then we can answer a bunch of questions. Uh, when I started my business, I left Hawaii, moved to Utah, got insured, got paid a lawyer to be on retainer and write my first couple of agreements for me based off of some stuff that I got from a mix of Internachi and Ashi, to be honest. And then 2 days later, they shut the country down for COVID. And so my grand plan of visiting real estate offices and impressing the realtors with my magnetic personality and all of this awesome stuff I had planned just went right out the window. And I was like up shit's creek without a paddle. There wasn't much to do. I had just spent most of my money moving back, buying all of the equipment I needed, and then getting a lawyer on retainer and thinking that I could just hit the road running because I was already an inspector with like what at that point it was like 4 or 5 years of experience. I had done over 1,000 homes by that point in time. Um, it didn't work out like that. So I decided that I was going to lean on social media, and it turns out that it can be incredible in so many other ways than getting you business. But before we go too much further into that, literally 30% of my business comes from my Instagram page. I've got enough work to keep me and one other guy busy full time, and I'm trying to get another guy on. And it's just going up from there. We're way too busy. So um, social media is not a bad idea. And if you're thinking, man, I don't know about this social media thing, it's not that hard. I'm gonna kind of walk you through it and explain to you just how easy it can be. But I want to sell you just a little bit further on it, right? It keeps you on top of mind. It's a great drip feed campaign. It gives you continuous visibility. And then when you actually prove out your knowledge in front of people, it builds an unquestionable level of expertise in their mind. People are almost starstruck that they have me coming to do their inspections, and I'm not any smarter than the rest of you guys. So, the type of effective content is videos, infographics, short clips. These all seem to really resonate well with audiences. But honestly, my biggest form of advice for anybody that's thinking about getting into social media is just start doing it. You're going to suck at it at first, and it's going to be really, really miserable. And then eventually you're going to figure out what stuff you like to make. I like to make videos, and there's a specific pace that I like my videos to look like. There's another inspector I knew that got really, really good traction here in Utah, Spencer. And he was just posting memes. That's all he was doing. But he was starting to get work from it too, because they were all home inspection related memes. And like he would come up with the most ingenious memes, and there's just no way I could do that. It's not my thing. I make videos. I don't do memes, but some people can do that. And so my recommendation is to just start making content. Everything in your industry is content if you're trying to make a brand name for yourself, which is the whole goal of this after all. Remember, your Instagram feed or your TikTok feed is now connected to Google. And so the bigger your Instagram is, the bigger your TikTok is, the higher your web page naturally floats on Google. It's part of the way you get to the top of Google these days. I'm sure a bunch of you guys are getting the phone calls. I'll get your page to the top of Google naturally. If you don't have a good social media presence, it just doesn't happen without a ton of money. And I don't pay for Google ads at all. So again, anything can be content. You just need to start producing content until you figure out what you're comfortable with making, and then eventually it's going to start resonating with your audience, which is where we're going to get a content strategy. So pick some sort of consistency to post is my next biggest important thing for doing a social media page. I would recommend at least twice a week to be minimum if you're doing any, not YouTube, anything other than YouTube, at least twice a week. Um, and this is going to be some sort of content that fits your niche and you get to decide whatever that niche is. It's probably going to be something that's related to your industry, but maybe you're a home inspector that likes guns, or maybe you're a home inspector that likes whiskey. Or maybe you're a home inspector that hates new builds. Just you need to be a little bit more ethical with the way you're doing that. That's the only thing I'm going to say about that. Otherwise, I'm going to move on from that particular topic. Um, but uh, what you need to do is post about twice a week, and then eventually you're going to get a couple videos that do really good. And you're going to take those two videos and you're going to repost them every 90 days. And eventually you're going to get a few more videos that do really good. And you're going to keep doing that. And you're going to repost those ones every 90 days. And eventually you'll have enough content that you're reposting that now instead of posting once a week, you're posting 3 times a week or 4 times a week or twice a day. I'm up to 3 times a day. And literally, probably 45% of the content I'm putting out is recycled. It's not stuff that I've that's brand new. And I'm putting out stuff from like years ago to months ago. Um, so, and it does great. The page does just fine. For content ideas, we're going to touch just one more time on CodePro here, or other sources like this. AI, like ChatGPT, is a great way. Ask CodePro about a code-related question, and then use the fact that you needed to ask that question as a learning opportunity to teach people about that particular code. Because if you didn't know, there's probably a lot of other people that didn't know because you're a professional. And so if it's something that you just learned, it's great content. You should be sharing anything that you just learned. You should be sharing. Well, some of my best performing videos are that stuff, or something that I just got off of AI. Man, it makes great content. Um, and then one of the things that I want to touch on for the last. Well, hold on just a second here. I want to make sure that yep, that's the last one. Okay,
And we've still got
so
35 minutes, Bo.
yeah, well, I was hoping we were going to have questions at the end, but
Okay.
maybe not.
We'll fill it. Go ahead and do your thing.
Okay. Okay, so industry challenges include market saturation and communicating effectively with clients. So this is kind of me trying to touch a little bit on the Cy Porter thing. There's a lot of people that love him. There's a lot of people that hate him. He's kind of a pivotal character when we start getting into the whole social media market for home inspectors. And I just want to touch for a second, guys. You should be ethical in the stuff that you're talking about. It's really, really easy to make content that gets attention, um, and can be like way over the top and exciting. But when other people start digging into the back end of what's going on here, if you're not being ethical about it, everybody's going to figure it out really, really fast. Um, Social media is a great way to get a drip feed in front of clients and realtors and other people and other stuff like that. And it's real easy to get hate and feel like you're going the wrong direction. Hate's actually a good thing, but you just need to make sure that you've got your own level of ethics that you're sticking to, and that you tell yourself that as long as I'm sticking to my own level of ethics, whatever hate or any sort of backlash that comes out of it is just part of building a robust brand on the internet.
Bo, can you back up a minute? You started out by saying you mentioned a name and then you said, something about it was controversial. Can
So Cy Porter, I don't know how many people on here have seen what Cy Porter is doing in Arizona, or if there's anybody in here that works in Arizona, I'm sure they've heard of him.
he's
I
the
mean,
guy who's going after the new
the new builds.
builders about new construction, how crummy new construction is.
Yeah, yeah, yep, him,
You know,
him.
I had a conversation with my with my wife this evening about this exact issue where my experience is, my observation is that the quality of construction today is the best that it has been in my lifetime. I mean, I remember how hard it was to hire competent people when I was hiring carpenters back in the 70s and 80s. I mean, you couldn't, they were all, they were all potheads. But
Well,
the people out there doing the work today have skills. They got a work ethic. They got quality control in place.
so yeah, you're right, but at the same time too, I'm seeing a lot of the mistakes that this guy was talking about. This Cy Porter is really, really popular for bashing on. But some of the stuff that's happening here, I don't, not to bash on him. I understand that he's trying to build a brand and that he's got something going for him and he's leaning on it and taking it to town. And he's actually like won some of the big arguments that he's been in. I think that Internachi dropping him was a horrible move, and that it could like a lot. There's a lot of stuff that's happened around him that I think like all parties involved have mishandled the situation, is my personal point of view. Like, Sai's done some wrong things, the builders have done some wrong things, the Internachi has done wrong things. It's all kind of been wrong from a bunch of different directions. But the end result here is that Sai Porter is making videos about how bad the builders are. And what he's doing is he's dragging their names through the dirt and acting like he isn't. And he stands in front of signs that have the builder's name on it and then says, I'm not going to say the builder's name, and then proceeds to walk into the neighborhood and dress them down. Look, guys, if you've got the world's ear like he does, stop talking about what the like which builder is doing wrong and just start talking about what's wrong. We don't need to point fingers at who's making the mistakes. We just need to point fingers at the mistakes and say we can all do better than this. That's the correct way to do that. And that's where my like whole kind of Ishma's coming from this, is that his the way he's doing this, yes, it's generating hate and it's getting attention, and that's kind of what you got to do to be on the internet and to get stuff. But um he's he's going about it a little bit the wrong way. And there's a lot of stuff like that. Yeah, he is big on Instagram. I've got the thing up.
It's also
Yeah.
on Facebook.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with Nick. Hollis, you're right that it's so I can see both sides. Hang on just for a second, because Nick makes me want to say one more thing on this particular topic. I can see both sides of the argument, where some people are looking at the building industry and going, oh my gosh, like you look at Zip and even Tyvek. Like, Tyvek is a terrible product and I hate it, but it is light years better than some of the stuff they were using in the 90s. It's still crap. um, and so there's kind of both sides to the argument. Like, well, they're trying more than they were, but at the same time too, there's stuff where guys are just slapping stucco on houses here in Utah. They're not putting flashing over the windows. They're missing chicken wire all the time, like just huge mistakes. How do you do that? How do you make these mistakes? But I'm not getting on the internet dragging Ivory Homes is the one that I like is probably the worst one in my state right now. I'm not getting on the internet just absolutely dragging their name through the mud, talking
You,
about how
you just
horrible.
did.
Well, here, yeah, but it's different than getting on Instagram and being like, "Hey, the whole world needs to know. 100 million people that have, are out there, needs to know." And these are inspectors. It's a different group. It's a different space. You guys understand that some builders in your areas are worse than others. That's just the nature of the beast. It just depends on the superintendents and what the builder's standards are and stuff like that. But again, I'm willing to talk about this. And there was another inspector on the internet, Matt with Texas Edge. He made a comment, he made a video talking about, we can work with the builders together to solve these issues. And Cy Porter made a video tearing him down for making that statement, tried to start an argument over it. And it's like, why? Why would you do that? And it's because he wants the hate and the attention and everything, because it's good for his brand and it's good for, it gets a lot of work. I'm sure that guy's just booked out because people think he's the only guy in the state that cares that, like, to the level they do, because that's the way he paints himself. So it works. Like, and I mean, I guess if we're going to dig into this whole brand thing, keep that in mind as you're building your social media brand, that the content you choose to show is how you paint yourself. I am a little bit of a goof on my social media page and have had people tell me I almost didn't pick you because your social media, you're a little bit of a goof. But then I saw your Google reviews and there was just no way I couldn't pick you. I've had that conversation a couple of times. So just be careful what you're showing people. That, yeah, the goofy videos that I'm sharing do really well, but just because they connect with people doesn't mean that it's necessarily best for my brand and the people that, the people that I'm intending to market to. My social media page does great because um, I hit a tone that is me. That's very me. That's very transparent, and that does great. And it's very easy for anybody else to do that. You just got to be yourself on your page, and then people will start to connect with it, and you'll get better at showing yourself with time as you practice. Just like I said before, um, you need to make sure that you're consistent, and as you're consistent, your voice and like you will come along with that because you'll get better at making content, and more people will notice it, and more people will come, and it'll just happen naturally. Trust me, it's not some big secret formula other than the you can repost your old stuff that does great. By the way, guys, I don't think I said this. um, you can the easiest way to get your old content off of any platform is by googling download TikTok video or download Instagram video or whatever it is, and then copying the link from that video and downloading it via that website that you can use. Pull it down and then use that video to repost it. If you do it that way, the algorithm sees it like it's a brand new video and it's never been done before. That's one of the secrets that I've been doing for a long time, and it just kicks butt. So that's a thing I would recommend.
What are you downloading?
So the videos that I make, Um, maybe I wasn't clear enough on this. When I make
You're
a video,
downloading your own video?
yeah, I download my
Okay,
own video.
okay,
When I,
okay. I
when I
thought you
make
were
a
saying you
video,
downloaded somebody else's video.
I do sometimes. If I sometimes I'll download somebody else's video that does really well, cut the like end half of it off, and put myself on there talking about what I think about that. That's actually one of my styles of content that does extremely well. And it's just because that's genuine. Like I'm really happy to give a commentary on somebody's mistake or something like that. And so I can easily like I would talk to my friend like this if he was sitting next to me like, "Hey, look at this video. This is what I think about this. It's kind of stupid, right? This would be the better way to do it." Instead, I just film myself doing that at the end of the video, and those videos do incredible. And it's just because that's my natural tone and voice. That's why they do so good. All right, guys. Any questions? I don't want to get too ranty here. I can keep going on the social media stuff. I'm full of advice on that, or the like liability stuff. Anything else you got? Well,
So I,
shoot.
I
I
don't
thought I
think
could.
I don't think there's a problem with it. People want to turn on their mics one at a time. If people have, let's try to keep the comments short. Make it a question, not a conversation.
Do you
Jim.
pay for social media ads?
So I've done it before. I've paid for social media ads on Instagram. They call it boosting your posts. Um, and the social media boosts do really, really good if you pick the correct video. So I only boost videos if they've already started to do good on their own. So I had a video a year ago go viral where it was somebody was painting over a wall and they were trying to paint a design, and they messed up the paint, and I said, "Hey, you should have painted over top of the tape with the base color first." That's all I said. It made me look like I was competent and understood the building industry. The video went viral, and I ended up boosting it with a little thing at the bottom that said, "Call me for inspections." Oh my gosh, it was probably my best performing ad ever. I probably got like 80 inspections from that one video. It was ridiculous. It like funded half of a year for me. It was insane. And so like you can have a lot of really good success with this sort of thing. But you have to pick the right video, because I've also done it with other videos and had at like most of the time, and it wasn't that particular scenario. Every time I've done that particular scenario, it's worked exactly like I just described it. I've got one that's doing that for me right now. But if it's just like a regular video that was doing great, and I don't think that it like advertised me right, because it didn't. It usually doesn't work like that. And so turning it into an ad isn't going to advertise me. It's just going to get it in front of more people and teach them more things about whatever thing I was teaching them about, or whatever funny thing I noticed. No, I am not on YouTube, but it's because right now I'm working on a YouTube project, which when I come out with my YouTube project should have like I have like the first 5 or 6 YouTube videos filmed. I've got a client here that's building a holistic home, and I'm doing a whole series on like what the hell a holistic, I gotta stop doing that. What the heck a holistic home is. So yeah, do you have ranking of your most effective social media sites? So I picked Instagram because I did some research, and Instagram's demographic is between the age of 25 and 50. And I went, huh, that's the most likely age that somebody's going to be buying a house. Most people on TikTok, at least a large portion of the demographic, there's plenty of people like I'm on TikTok. I love that app, but I'm not part of what would be considered the demographic, um, is between 30 and under, right? A lot of people under 30 probably not buying a house anytime soon in this market. So I didn't really decide to push TikTok very much. And then YouTube is so freaking saturated and the content is so stinking long that it looked like a longer, harder process to get started in YouTube than it did in Instagram. So I sat down and I started watching Instagram videos, and every time I came across a video that I wanted to watch twice, I pulled out my notebook and wrote down things about that video that I liked. And then I came up with a little list of things that I felt like were what makes a video work and kind of is viral and why people like it. And then I replicated that crap. And it's because I liked it. It's not because the algorithm told me that people were going to like it or because some professional on the internet told me. It's just because I found the crap that felt like it resonated with me. And then I started replicating it because that felt good to me. And then people resonated with it too. And ta-da. That's all it takes. Um, Raising your inspection fees. I'm pretty competitive in my area. I don't know if anybody's gone to look at my website. There are some companies that are higher than me and some companies that are much lower than me. Um, I do a lot of commercial inspections as well. I don't advertise them on my Instagram page much, and that's because the Instagram page primarily keeps my residential guy busy, and then me on the residential stuff when I'm not doing commercial stuff busy. But my commercial stuff is getting so big by word of mouth that that's kind of primarily what I'm turning into now. And so, like, I don't have a want to raise my fees because of how much commercial I'm doing. I would be very low in the DC metro area. I think I would be low, like in Hawaii too. I'm like a third lower in Hawaii, in Utah than I would be in Hawaii.
Where are you? Where are you in Park City?
Me? No, I'm in Salt Lake City.
Salt Lake City.
Yeah. So, what percentage of home sales in your area include an inspection? Probably 90% of them at this point, I think. Honestly, I think it's still around 90%. It's really, there was a brief period there, just after COVID in like 2021, 2022-ish, that for a minute there, I was making videos telling people, stop skipping your inspections because it got to like a 50-50, I feel like. But right now in Utah, it's definitely like 90% of the time they're getting an inspection. Um, Commercial's different than that here in Utah, though. It's probably only 10% of the time they get a due diligence inspection on the commercial side in Utah. And I don't know why. I think it's because of the big commercial real estate guy here that does most of the commercial real estate doesn't like due diligence inspections for some reason. But that's a guess. I haven't actually talked to him about it. More questions, guys. Or I can tell you some more information on um, what makes a viral video really quick. So if you're making a video, your video needs to, you cut your sentences down. So let's say I want to tell somebody about a TPR valve and why they're important. Instead of getting in the video and making it in one single clip, hey, you need to have a TPR valve on your water uh, tank because it prevents your water tank from exploding if it overpressurizes. That's what the P in TPR stands for. Um, that's a real straightforward video and would do okay. But if I cut it up to where I said, hey, you need to have a TPR valve on your tank, cut scene, move my body position, move location, startup. The reason why you need to have a TPR valve on your tank is because cut scene, move location, set up, say the next sentence, and every single scene is about 3 to 10 seconds long maximum. People can't stop looking at those videos. And it's because things are changing. The sentences all line up and everything goes together linearly, so that makes sense and they're going to keep watching. But things keep changing. And if you actually watch big blockbuster movies, there is not more than 10 seconds before there is a sound effect, a scene change, or some sort of changing thing on screen. And it's because our attention spans are too freaking short. We're a bunch of goldfish at this point, and um, that's one of the biggest tricks that I could recommend is just say a sentence, move, say two or three sentences, move, say three or four sentences, move, and then cut the video up so that there's no pauses and it all looks really, really nice and smooth. And you can do that with an app called CapCut. I like that one a lot. By the way, guys, while I'm thinking about it really quick, because we're talking about apps, for Code Pro, um, what I can do is actually what I'll do is for the next 24 hours, I'll tell the developers for the next 24 hours, anybody that downloads Code Pro will get a bunch of free tokens. You can find it in the App Store, or you can go to codeproapp.com. And that, because it's a brand new app, it's not at the top of the App Store. Some people are having trouble finding it in the river of apps when you search Code Pro. If you go to codeproapp.com, you should still get it. I told them that I was going to do this, so I'm hoping that it's in advance, Paul.
We
Okay.
don't need any kind of a token or a code or anything to get it.
No. So if you guys want, you can put in inspect INSPECT 25, and it will let them know that I sent you. And so and I mean, but I'm one of the guys that's like supporting this app. So of course I'm gonna know that I sent you. That's for the other people. But anyways, if you
What
guys
did you say? What did you say that code was?
inspect here, I'll put it in the chat for you guys really quick.
I was going to do it for you.
Boom. There you guys go.
Inspect 25. Okay, cool.
Yeah. And then yeah, you guys get just a bunch of free questions. And then after that, if you want, you don't have to buy a subscription. You can just buy a token pack and then use those tokens. And when they expire, if you want to buy more, you can. So no sign up. That was one of our big things. Everybody's trying to pull money out of your pocket every month. And if you want to, because you use it that much, great. But if you don't use it that much, buy a token pack, guys.
So what does a token give you?
So basically the way it works is you only get a certain number of questions. We have to pay to run the servers that are answering the questions. So they're not free. There is a brain that is thinking about this very, very hard. But the what you do is you download it, and when you ask a question, it'll use a set of tokens. Every single question will use up some of your tokens. Eventually you run out of tokens and you gotta buy more. You can do that with a monthly membership, and what that does is it gives you a certain number of tokens every single month, and you build up if you're not using them. And then if you get rid of your monthly membership, you hold on to those tokens. They don't go away. Or you can buy token packs. And so if you don't want to do a monthly membership, you just want to buy like 50, 100, 1,000 questions, go for it. We got token packs. You can go in there and buy them. And then you don't have to pay for a monthly subscription. You just pay for what you need. Easy peasy.
So we should not download it yet. We should wait till tomorrow.
No, go ahead, download it. I just sent a text message out. You guys are good.
Okay.
Trust me. Development team's on it.
All right.
They knew. I was like, guys, I'm gonna have a bunch of people getting in tonight, and they were like, great. And I was like, I probably want the like just a blanket free tokens for the evening, like the starter pack. I think it's like 20,000 free tokens. I can't remember exactly what the developer agreed on, but um, they were like, yeah, sure, let's do it. And I was like, well, let me like announce it. And they're like, okay, we'll get it in the works. And so I just sent them the text message saying, hey, I let them know people are going to start downloading, and so they're officially got a response.
Hey, Bo.
We're, they're good. Okay.
Hey, Bo.
Yes.
How long does it take you to inspect a 3,000 square foot house?
A 3,000 square foot house takes me about 3 hours, maybe three and a half. Depends
long,
on how bad it is.
how long does it take you to write the report?
I do the report while I'm on site. Um, I'll go home in the evening and look at my reports on the computer to make sure that I didn't like make any boneheaded mistakes while I was on site. And sometimes as I'm going through the reports, I'll go, oh, dang, that's right. There's this one thing I wanted to make sure that, oh, yep, I did put that in there or something like that. And then after that, I publish them the same day that evening is usually what I do. Any other
Where,
questions?
where do you see the evolution of report writing headed?
AI. AI is going to be writing reports. Oh my gosh. So my dream app that I would love to make someday is that I envision is you like walk into a house and you've got a camera that's mounted on your shoulder, and as you're walking your way through the house and performing the inspection, the camera is recording everything you're doing. It is using an AI model to build a 3D map of the house. And then as you come across the discrepancy, you say, hey, I have found what looks to be like poor ceiling around this interior window in the living room. It will put that discrepancy in that location in the 3D map and write the discrepancy for you, and it does all that live as you're moving through the house. So all you got to do is just inspect and talk to it. It builds the report, the 3D map, everything. Because AI is pretty much at that point. I just need to have enough money to build that kind of software. It's very expensive.
Can I ask you how old you are and what your building experience is?
Yeah. So I'm 37, and I started working in the construction industry when I was probably 14. My grandpa was building houses. I helped him build houses and tree houses, and then in the summers I would help my dad build. He did kind of all sorts of stuff. We made swimming pools, ponds. He was more of a landscaper guy. When I turned 18, I started doing construction at a motocross track. I was building illusions for a magician, and I was doing handyman work for family. I became a helicopter pilot, and while I was going to school, in order to help fund schooling, I was working for a contractor here in Utah. Then, as I was flying helicopters, helicopters are gig work. So you fly until the fire goes out in the summer. If you're an EMS pilot, you fly a week on, week off, and you only get paid the week that you're on, not the week that you're off. So you're only, working half the time. The other half the time, you need to make a paycheck. And it's kind of a transient lifestyle too, being a helicopter pilot. And I would pick up odd end jobs. I worked for a roofing crew. I worked for a plumber under the table for a little while. I did some work for an electrician. I was in Hawaii flying helicopters there and had my own handyman business. And I was remodeling bathrooms and kitchens in houses in Hawaii, kind of illegally. And there was a guy that was doing an inspection on the house. And the rest is history. I met him, and well, he's also a helicopter pilot, so we knew each other. And I started apprenticing underneath him, and I loved it. I realized what kind of profit there is in it. I like being able to walk through a house and look at things and go, ah, this, that, and not being the one that has to fix it. And so that was the direction I went when I decided to move to Utah and start a business. I wanted to get out of flying helicopters. It was killing my family.
So did you say you use Spectora?
Yes, sir.
What do you like about it?
So well, when I started doing inspections, the inspector that I started with, Carl, he said he had gone through a bunch of them. He'd gone through Home Gauge, he'd gone through Whisper, and he'd gone through a bunch of them, and he picked Spectora because at that point in time, he liked how professional the reports looked, and the automation system that it had was the big thing that he liked. And he was big on the like, this automation is what's going to keep my workflow minimal and my profit maximum. And like, I loved the way he was thinking about that, because when I went to college originally, I was going to get a business degree, decided that that was horrible and I would be miserable in a cubicle, and wanted to become a pilot and completely change things up. But anyways, so his business views were amazing to me. I loved the way he thought about it, and that's kind of where we went into it.
What else we got?
Yeah, we got any other questions? Sorry, guys.
What re-
Great
what
business
report
model.
writing
We
software?
we got
Oh,
nothing. It's 4th of July weekend. Come on, let's get this over with.
yeah, right. I completely agree with you.
Fourth,
So
it's not even a weekend. What are you talking about? Weekend? It's Wednesday.
um, So the report writing software, Spectora's automated stuff. One of the greatest things about it is so like here's a great example. I can set up if and then the stuff. I can send a realtor who has never used us before a specific email saying, "Hey, I know this is the first time that we've worked with you. That means that you've never used our repair request software." That's something that Spectora has that gets me a little bit of work. The realtors really like that. Um, so here's access to the repair request software. Here's how it works. And then the next time that they use us, we can say, "Hey, you've never this is the second time you've worked with us. We'd love if you gave us a review because obviously you like us if you've used us twice now." And that's how I get all the 5-star reviews that I get, you know? And so all of that's automated. I don't have to do any of it. I don't have to think about any of it. It just does it for me. And I have it all set up on the back end. And it's all through Spectora. So, and it's stuff like that that's, I'm a one-man operation. I haven't been out here for even 10 years yet doing it myself. And I've got over 200 5-star Google reviews and a 5.0 Google rating. And I 100% say that's my automated email system and the way I ask for Google reviews. Because I try to ask only people that I think are going to give me a 5-star review. And I have it set up so that my system aims at those people.
So you start out by asking them a question, how satisfied are they? And if they say, I'm not very satisfied, you
No, no, no. I just
call you on the
assume that if
phone.
they've used me a second time, they're satisfied, right? That's the
Okay.
assumption I make. Like the first one, I'm not going to ask you on the first one because some realtors, they'll decide they hate you, even though you didn't do anything wrong. They're like that. And so if you ask them the first time, you might get a 2-star review from somebody that just the buyer decided they were going to back out for something that's not your fault at all. And so to avoid that 2-star review, I don't ask a realtor that's used me once. I ask a realtor that's used me twice. Obviously, you've come back. You must
Right.
like me. Can I get a review from you? And
Get
I
it
can
quick
make
before
that.
they don't call you a third time.
Yeah, yeah. And then I don't ask them every single time. I can set it up where it only asks them once, and so they're not getting bugged every single time. Hey, give me a review, give me a review, give me a review. It's only the one time. They like it that way. It's same thing for clients, Paul. Yeah. For client review, it's every single client gets asked for a review. Um, and I have a lot of discussions with that with other realtors here in the state, back and forth about when to ask for a review. Some say the same day, some say a couple days later. I'm a couple days later guy. But anytime you ask for a review, you can do that. I do it through text message in my automated system. So they get a text message saying basically, "Hey, this is the last time you're going to hear from us. We'll stop bugging you. The last thing we want to know though is if you'd like to give us a review. It'll be easy. You see this link right here? You click it. It will take you directly to Google. You can click the 5-star button and be done." And I get reviews from that text message all the time. Um, I've never asked realtors, all clients. I do 3 days. Yeah, 3 days is good. Mine is 2 days later. At some point, is it better to focus on a quality instead of quantity? Instead of hundreds of automated 5-star reviews, I'd rather have dozens of personalized and genuine reviews. Hey, Darren, I really like where you're coming from with this, and you're valid in that. But from somebody who's gonna buy, and I'm looking through the reviews, I'm gonna stop on the guy that's got 200 5-star reviews and go, how did he do that? He's like, maybe not all of those are, genuine reviews. He's obviously got to be asking for them, but there's no way that he duped 200 people, right? At a certain point, the numbers help you. And that personally for me was really what I was interested in when I set that system up. I want to get a lot of reviews really fast. And I want to get 5-star reviews because I'm trying to get to the top of the Google column without paying for it. That's why I did the Instagram thing. That's why I do the the automation stuff. A lot of the stuff I'm doing is because there's so many people out there right now that are paying five, six, seven, $10,000 a month, whatever it is, to have Google ads. I don't pay a penny for it. My ads are because of my social media page and my Google reviews. Those are my ads. That's what gets me all of my work. That or word of mouth. Cool. Have we got anything else here?